You can think of truth being on this kind of a vector, and you can think about it being like a three-dimensional vector, or vector three. But what it means is that you can be much closer to the truth, and that being okay, compared to being much further from the truth and that being like the antithesis of what is going on. So we can take an example, which is that let's say the shape of the Earth. So we have the shape of the Earth over here as the green dot, which is the sort of the absolute God-given truth that is irrefutable. Now, the closer we get to the shape of the Earth or the truth, it requires, to get close to the truth, it requires information. So we can have either missing information, which is something that is very natural to human beings. So information can be, it can be missing, it can be misinterpreted, and it can also be falsified. So if you're missing information, it's sometimes possible to go into the wrong direction. So if you're missing a crucial piece, you might fall into a trap where you assume something that is not really the case. But most of the time, I would say, and to keep things simple, you will start moving into the right direction, but then you might miss the target, or might not reach it. When it comes to the shape of the Earth, you can have a claim that the Earth is, let's see if we can make an actual circle here. So you can say that the Earth is a sphere, or then you can say that the Earth is flat. Now, if we look at it on the vector, we can see that a circle is in the right direction. It is pointing towards the truth. But if you say that the world is a sphere, you're wrong, because the Earth is actually Earth-shaped. So there's no other shape that we know of in the known universe that is the shape of the Earth, because the Earth is actually Earth-shaped. There are mountains and things like that. But the sphere is much closer to the truth than flat is. And then, of course, you can have someone who claims that the Earth is the opposite of a sphere, so it's like a concave. So we live inside a hollow sphere, which is getting closer, further and further away from the truth when measured with something at least. So what is measured by is facts that can be sort of disproven. So you can say that the Earth is a sphere, and it is sort of difficult to disprove that as it is in the right direction. This one is much easier to disprove, because if you live here and you look up, you don't see another Earth. Now, again, it's possible that this is true, and that by some strange bending of light and things that we cannot see, that it is actually like the whole universe is shaped like this, but it still doesn't point towards what we are sort of observing and what the truth can be considered. So information, there's always going to be missing information, but it is not an excuse to start making claims that point in the wrong direction, because if you do that, you are wrong by default. So if you start, let's say, completely guessing, you're wrong even if you would be guessing into the right direction, because you're saying things that don't make any sense. So you can be wrong and interpret the information correctly every step of the way, because you're missing something crucial. Now, misinterpreting can be intentional, or then it can be accidental. So you lack the capacity to comprehend what you're seeing, which is, again, very human. So we have to stay humble when it comes to information and truth. Now, the falsified information part is where a person or entity is intentionally pushing the discourse into all kinds of wild directions, but they always usually point to they usually point towards every other direction except for the right one. So people get very confused. And we know that we as humans can have beliefs that are wildly inappropriate, even when it comes to the truth. And it doesn't matter how many people believe something, because if we go by how many people believe something, then a lot of weird stuff starts to become true that actually isn't. And if you go into, let's say, a large group over here, it means that you can find a lot of people, especially in the modern world when there is a lot of people, who all agree with you, but you're making zero sense, but you're only talking to each other properly. So it doesn't really make any sense to measure truth in any of that way. You have to look towards where the truth is pointing. So if you are in the sphere category, it's fine, because it is, I would say, in all practical purposes, it points towards the right direction. But you should not be so absolutist about it. So you shouldn't say that this is the absolute truth and will never bend, and everything else is is ridiculous and stupid. So you can't go ahead and be so certain of your position, because the actual facts are usually very difficult to completely understand, even though you're in the right direction. So you have to keep moving towards this, but you don't have to ever reach it. So it's a bit like a weightlifter always increasing the amount of weight on their apparatus, whatever they're using to lift the weights, and then they start lifting things that they might never really reach, or they reach for a goal that they might never actually gain to. And when they reach the goal, then they're going to push even further. So you keep going, but you never sort of accept the limits of the truth, in a sense. But this, as simply as possible, demonstrates the absurdity of some people's claims that if the Earth is not a sphere, then it can be concave. It doesn't make much sense. It is pointing towards the correct estimate, to which we, like many times, we know the answer to, but for simplification's sake, we use a sphere as an example. And we use things like, I think I've heard, like a pear shape, in a sense, because the Earth bulges in weird directions. And also, if you get an Earth shape in one moment of time, it's going to change a little bit depending on the gravity of the moon and things like that. So you have to take all of these into consideration, and then you come to the truth. But there is a right direction. I guess as a final point, there is also the truth is dependent on a goal. So if you have a goal that is different from someone else, then you two might start debating on a thing, and you might say that that's false and that's true, but it's both at the same time, because your goal is the thing that separates these two. So if you want to, let's say, live in peace and have a good time, and you don't want to fight wars, and then someone else is very bored and they do want to fight wars, then your goals are going to be very different. Now, how to reach these things, usually one side will start to rely on untruths, a few untruths here and there, and then this will, they feel that it will justify the ends. But if they were honest, it would be much more clear to debate these things. And of course, on both sides, you have people, but again, it is the amount of them. You can't control everything. You cannot control something absolutely. The more people there are, the more chances there are that somebody's going to be doing something wrong. But again, it is a measurable fact that one side doing more wrong constantly is more unhealthy to everything than the side that tries, and then they try to eliminate this and they aim for the truth. Goodbye.